right, hello. Thank you for joining us today at Hult International Business School. I see a lot of people coming from all over the world. I see Colombia, Honduras, Ecuador, New Jersey, as well as New York City, Serbia, which is fantastic. Students joining us from all over the world, from all different time zones. I hope many of you are not up too late. And again, thank you for joining us here. My name is Thomas Wise. I'm the Associate Director of Enrollment for our North American students here at Hult International Business School. And I want to thank you for joining this virtual / in-person open house. I am going to be kicking it off today, and I'm joined by our undergraduate dean, Dean Moe, as well as our career advisor, Alli Hamilton, our student services advisor, Morgan McClure, as well as, last but not least, 3 of our wonderful students, Alessandra, Ahmed, and Viviana. So welcome to everyone. We're going to get started today with an overview of our program delivered by Dean Moe. That will be followed by Alli, who is going to guide us through what gives our career services such an edge for our students in the future. Then Morgan will take us through the types of options and availability of student organizations and services on campus. And then finally, we'll sit down and have a Q&A with all of our staff members as well as our students. So before we begin, I'd like to mention some important and housekeeping information. Today's webinar is going to be an hour long, which means that we'll have plenty of time at the end for us to sit down and have a conversation and have our Q&A towards 2 p.m. We're recording it, so if you wind up missing anything, if you have to duck out early or you want to share it with someone like your family members or other students, you're welcome to do so, and it'll be sent around after we finish up. If you have questions, you'll notice that there are 2 chat boxes. One is the chat box that you're probably used to from Zoom by now. The other is the Q&A box. I'm going to ask that you use the Q&A box specifically because it makes it easier for us to hand out questions and keep it organized as we go through today's program. Please feel free to drop those questions in as we're going through so that you can get your questions answered before the end of our event today. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Dean Moe, who will take us into Hult's program.
Thank you very much, Thomas, and good morning, everyone from San Francisco. My name is Willan, and I am the Dean for the San Francisco campus. The Boston Dean, Monica, cannot join us today, so I'm stepping in for her. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time from your busy schedules to join us today. We're honored to have you here. I have been with Hult now for 8 years, and I spent my first 5 years in London, where I was the Senior Associate Dean. Then in 2018, I had the good fortune of being asked to open the Boston campus. And that was a great experience. I spent a year in Boston. And then in 2019, I got transferred to the San Francisco campus. So I hold the unique distinction of having been the only dean to have worked in all the 3 campuses. And this is something I'm very proud of. I am from the Gambia, which is the smallest country in mainland Africa. And before joining Hult, I spent about 9 years in industry. Mainly in management consultant and also working for a cement company from France, Lafarge. And I was their marketing director responsible for 3 countries in West Africa. But 10 years ago, I made the conscious decision to transition from the corporate world to the world of education. And without doubt, that was one of the best decisions I have ever made. For me, working in education with young men and women and helping them achieve their future aspirations is something that is very close to my heart. I love working in education. It's not a job for me, because a job is something you do sometimes just to earn the money. For me, working in education is not a passion, because sometimes a passion can last a short time. But for me, I truly believe that working in education is what I call my calling. It's why I was put in this world to do. And I take tremendous honor and privilege to be working with young men and women like yourselves. I also work in education because it resonates with my own personal values. My guiding philosophy in life is that life is all about sharing and caring. Life is all about sharing and caring. And how that translates into my professional practice is that I share my knowledge with the students in the classroom because I still teach. And I also show tremendous levels of care to guide, support, and mentor them to evolve, grow, discover themselves, and more importantly, to help them move on to achieve their future aspirations. So I very much hope that at some point, I will get to see some of you during your studies here. Next slide, please. Choosing a university is never an easy decision. I'm sure many of you are thinking, which direction should I be heading in terms of further education? But at Hult, we want to reassure you that we are among the best business schools in the world. And this is validated by the fact that we are the first business school out of America to hold what we call the Triple Crown or the Triple Accreditation. These accrediting bodies don't give their accreditations lightly. Each university that holds this Triple Crown goes through a rigorous process of validation to make sure that they meet the very high and exacting standards that are set by these accreditation bodies. And we are immensely proud to be the first business school from the Americas to hold this crown. Not only that, but also only 1% of business schools in the world hold the triple accreditation. So I believe that goes a long way to show you or to demonstrate to you the validity and the high standards of our academic program. Next slide, please. I'm going to spend the next 15, 20 minutes just to give you more insights in terms of what our program entails here. The Hult undergrad program is built upon 3 pillars. It's built upon 3 pillars, and I'm going to go through each of these pillars and how those actually translate in how we prepare students, not only in their personal development, but also preparing them for their careers tomorrow. Theo, next slide, please. So the first pillar of our program is about making sure that our students become what we call global citizens and have high levels of how business is done in different parts of the world. Today, we live in a world where businesses are expanding their operations in different parts of the world. Governments are collaborating. Companies are also trying to be global players by making sure that they have their operations in every part of the world. And that what also means is that they will be looking for graduates who understand how business is done in every part of the world. And I would also like to emphasize that at Hult, 64% of our graduating class end up working outside of their home countries. And to be able to achieve that, we need to make sure that our students understand how business is done in different parts of the world. This is very, very important. If you look at some of the most profitable brands in the world today, you talk about Google, you talk about Apple, you talk about Walmart, for example. These are what we call global companies, right? And what they will also be looking for is graduates who understand how business is done in all parts of the world. So when you study at Hult, we make sure that you understand this fundamental principle, that you might be, for example, from Brazil, you might be from Serbia, you might be from Kenya, or you might be from the States, but you don't know where you will end up working tomorrow as a professional. And we take it as part of our role as an educational institution to make sure that you prepare yourself, you're well prepared to meet the challenges of wherever you work tomorrow. Next slide, please. And just to put it into context, right? The biggest challenge facing companies today, without doubt, or the #1 reason why businesses fail when they go international, is lack of cultural understanding. There's no doubt about that. I teach a course here called Global Strategy, and I keep saying to my students, the #1 reason why businesses fail when they go global or international is because they underestimate the importance of culture. So at Hult, we're proud to say that we have over 137 nationalities represented. Almost every student here speaks 3 languages. And the faculty, like myself, we come from 45 different countries. But just to emphasize on the 137 nationalities that are represented here, I can also say that the Germans are the most represented among the student population here, but they account for only 8% of the student population. So I think that gives you some indication of how really diverse our student body is. But for us, diversity doesn't mean only coming from different countries. It's also about understanding, more importantly, what are the characteristics, the attributes, the behaviors, and what can we learn from other cultures to help us prepare us for our future careers, but also understand how we live together as people in this world. Next slide, please. And for us also, preparing students to become what we call global citizens, who understand how businesses are done in different parts of the world, and who aspire to work for global companies tomorrow. For us, this translates into practice by making sure that we have campuses in 5 different cities, not only 5 different cities, but perhaps arguably the 5 biggest cities where, in fact, almost every major company operates out of. And for us, what this also means is that if you should study in Shanghai, you will be required to take a course called Doing Business in China. If you should take a semester in Dubai, you will have to do a course called Doing Business in the Middle East. If you should rotate to San Francisco, for example, for a summer course, you will take a course called Doing Business in Silicon Valley. So these are not just cliches or words we say about understanding the world, but by taking these courses in each of these locations, we hope to build your skills, your knowledge, your understanding, and your competencies about how business is done in these different parts of the world. Because guys, you are all going to be managers tomorrow, and the job of managers is to make decisions. But to make the right decisions, you must understand that also how business is done in different parts of the world is so very different. And for us, how we prepare you for this is that we give you the chance to go and live in these cities, understand how business is done, understand the local cultures, so that wherever, if in the event that you end up working for a company in China, for example, and you've already done a course called Doing Business in Shanghai, you will be able to add value to that organization that hires you in Shanghai. Next slide, please. The second part of our program is to make sure that students understand about the future. What the future holds, nobody knows 100%. But there is also a saying that the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. I repeat, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. So for us as an institution, we found it incumbent upon us to make sure that we give you the right skills that will help you to prepare for what the future might bring. Next slide, please. And there is no doubt, and I'm sure we'll all agree that the #1 disruptor that will continue to shape the future will be technology. The evolving nature of technology implies that today, how business is done is being driven by technology. I was just reading last week that Amazon now has started to open stores in London where there are you just enter, your mobile phone is scanned at the entrance, and the items you pick, you put it in your grocery basket and you walk out and it will charge you automatically. You know, these are artificial intelligence technologies that will continue to shape the world in terms of how businesses are conducted, but also how me and you as consumers interact with such organizations. So what does this mean for us as a school, and how do we use these scenarios that will shape our future to prepare you for the future? Is that when you study at Hult, you learn about artificial intelligence. You learn about autonomous vehicle, blockchain technologies. You learn about cybersecurity, energy of the future, robotics. And we believe that by giving you this knowledge and these skills about these different technologies that will continue to evolve and shape our world, will prepare you as future professionals who will understand how this will shape our future, and more importantly, to contribute to the organizations that will make use of your services in terms of applying these technologies that will continue to define our future. Next, please. And the third aspect of our program, and this is very, very important, is about learning about you. Go and feel. It's about learning about you yourselves. I always say to my students that going to university is a period of what I call self-discovery. Self-discovery. For many of you, this might be the first time you're away from home, and you have to learn and discover who you are as an individual without parental influence as such. So the third part of our program is what I would call discovering who you are in terms of what are your competencies, what are the good things that you are good at, and building up on those ones as you study here, and also knowing and appreciating your limitations, because we all have limitations. But more importantly, working on those limitations so that you convert them into capabilities. And again, how do we articulate this in our curriculum? I will explain in the next slide. Today, companies are not only looking for graduates who have good academic standing. I think our career services manager, Alli, will talk about this later. But companies are also putting heavy emphasis on skills. I mean, personal skills. And our job as a school as well is to make sure that we give you the right levels of skills so that when you go to industry or you start your own company for that matter, you will be able to apply these skills. And when I talk about skills here, there are many of them. We make sure that we inculcate in you during your studies here. It could be about critical thinking. It could be skills relating to decision making. I repeat, on this issue of decision making. From day one you join Hult, I always tell my students, we don't consider you to be students here. For us, you are future managers who are being trained for tomorrow. And that starts from day one. And to be an effective manager, you must be able to understand skills relating to, for example, not only understand, but have the skills about how do you work effectively in a team, communication skills, cultural awareness, interpersonal skills, right? All these things, decision-making skills, these are all things that are required of managers. And for us, we don't wait until you graduate. From day one, you have to be able to build up on these skill sets that are required by employers. So to put it into context, in every assignment or in every course you study here, you will normally have a team project. And in working as part of a team means that if you're a team of 5, you will all come from different nationalities. And we do this deliberately. We will put you in a team with 4 other students who are from different parts of the world. And what that implies in practice is that you will gain an understanding of, I have a German student in my group. I will get to understand how Germans think and act and behave. It will be about negotiation skills with the other team members because you might have a different viewpoint to your other team members. So your job is to convince them to accept or come to your way of thinking, right? And that is negotiation skills in practice. So over 4 years or 3 years that you spend with us, you will gain all these skill sets that are so very highly valued by employers today. And at Hult, we make sure that we inculcate these skill sets in you right from day one. Next one, please. But for me, having worked for Hult for 8 years, the best thing I like about our program is based on the concept of learning by doing. And what I mean by this is, in most other schools, your assignments are normally paper-based case studies, right? And often in some schools as well, you don't get to apply what you learn until after graduation. We have the opposite viewpoint. We believe that, like I said before, you are managers. Managers have 2 responsibilities: make decisions and ensure that these decisions are executed. And when they're executed, it helps take us towards the achievement of the company's objectives. So at Hult, we put heavy emphasis on learning by doing. Apply what you have learned in a real life scenario. And I will expand on that in the next slide. So how do we practice this learning by doing concept in our courses? I think the easiest way to put it is to give you an example. As I said before, I still teach. Normally, I teach up to 4 courses a year. This semester, I'm teaching a course here in San Francisco called Brand Management. Brand Management. And the group assignment, which is normally for 30% of their assignment grade, there's a company here, a very, very, very fast-growing startup company here called Sunnykind. Sunnykind is a company that was started by 2 young women, And the idea came from making hand sanitizers from ozone plastic bottles, because San Francisco is a city that is very much based on sustainability. And the company is doing so well that now a big supermarket retailer has come in to buy the company. And the two founders are not sure about what to do next. So I met with them, and that was the assignment for the students, right? Should they sell to this company, or should they keep the brand and grow it on themselves? And if they're going to grow it, how should they do it? That's the assignment. So the founders of this company, they come to my class by Zoom, explain the challenge they face to the students, and the students will be broken into teams of 4. They will work on this for 5 weeks. Then the company managers will come back to the class, and each group will present to this company. And the winning group will work as interns for this company. So what I'm trying to say here is that as a professor, I give them the knowledge in the class, I teach them the concepts, the theories, but then to apply it, I bring a real life organization into the classroom, and they can use the knowledge I have taught them to find solutions to these companies' problems. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what education is all about. Knowledge not applied is knowledge wasted. I repeat, knowledge not applied is knowledge wasted. In most other traditional schools, you don't get to apply this knowledge until you have an internship or when you start your career later on. But at Hult, you can be a freshman and working with $1 million company from day one. And this is very valuable. It builds your confidence. It validates the knowledge you have learned in class that, look, what my professor is teaching me in the classroom is actually what translates into professional practice. That builds your confidence. So just think about it. By the time you graduate, you've worked with, let's say, 20 companies under your belt. If you go for any job interview and they ask you, give me an example where you've solved a real life problem, the problem you face is, which one should I choose? Because I have done so many. So for us, it comes back to what I said before. Here, you are not a student. You are a manager in training. The job of managers is what? 2 things. You make decisions, you execute the decisions. And by working with real life organizations, we gave you the platform to apply this. The company has a problem. Think of a solution. That's what you will be paid to do when you graduate. You're paid to find solutions to problems that face businesses. And not only recommend a strategy, but explain to the company how they can execute that strategy. That is what we call here learning by doing. And not only in each course, but you will be doing so many different challenges by the time you come here. And we call them challenge learning. So in your freshman year, you will do a startup challenge. In your second year, you will do a social impact challenge. In fact, closely aligned to the social impact challenge is that we allow our undergraduate students to take part in what we call the Hult Prize. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Hult Prize, but for those of you who haven't, the Hult Prize was founded by the founder of this institution, Bertil Hult, whereby every year there will be a global competition among universities, and they will normally be given a challenge that revolves around sustainability and making our world a better place and a much more equitable place. And students from all parts of the world will compete for this prize of $1 million. And I'm so immensely proud that this year, the undergraduate students from San Francisco made it to the finals. So impossible is nothing, which is what we teach you guys when you come here. Impossible is nothing. So, and then in your junior year, you will have by then specialized in a major. You will also have a specialization or major challenge. And then in your final year, we have what we call the core challenge, or what we call Hult Business Challenge. It's a capstone course where normally most of the seniors will take it. And this is normally with a big brand organization. So this year, for example, we're working with Facebook. But before, we've worked with Amazon, Unilever, Union Bank of Switzerland, and so many other big brands. So in essence, what I'm saying here is that at Hult, we place tremendous emphasis on learning by doing, right? It's not just knowing the theory, but how to apply it. I have to say that I didn't experience this during my university days. All I was given was to read a chapter in the book. Here's a case study that's 20 years old, work on it. No, but at Hult, we are different. we believe that students should be given the opportunity to apply what they've learned from day one. And this goes on throughout your studies here. Theo, next slide, please. So in essence, we are a business school, but we also believe that being a business graduate should not be limited to the study of only business. Because today in the workplace, when you go there, you might be a business graduate, but you will need to collaborate and work with different other parts of the organization. And also you might need some additional knowledge that goes beyond business to help you connect with the world better. I always emphasize to students that education, as far as I'm concerned, serves two purposes. The first one, of course, is to gain the knowledge, but more importantly is how you utilize that knowledge to understand how society works. Too often, many schools put emphasis only on the knowledge, but it's about understanding, more importantly, what I've learned in class, how does it relate to the wider world? And as a result of that, we also have additional disciplines that are outside of the realm of business that we believe can add value to your learning. And that I will explain in the next slide, please. So at Hult, when you start your program here, you have the option to take a major. And you normally declare your major in your junior year. And you can major in business analytics, which is a very, very hot area today. You can major in entrepreneurship, in finance, management, or marketing. But also you have the option to take a minor in a non-business discipline that will also complement your major very well. So for example, if you major in marketing, it's recommended that you take a minor in psychology. And you know why, because marketing is all psychological. You can major in finance, but take a minor in computer science, because today we know that most financial packages are driven by computers. So you have the option to major and take a minor as well. Next slide, please. Again, this is a very common question asked: how long will the degree last? I think it varies based on where you come from and also what program you studied at high school. If you come from countries where the high school ends at year 12, like in the US, for example, you're normally expected to stay here for 4 years to do your undergrad. If you come from countries that, for example, you've taken IB, the International Baccalaureate in high school, you will normally be exempted from the first year. You'll be given transfer credits and you will normally stay for 3 years. Also, if you come from, you did the French Baccalaureate, the German Abitur, or the Italian Maturita, right? You can also get transfer credits because high school ends at year 13, and year 13 is pretty much like the first year of university. So we give you transfer credits and you will normally stay here for 3 years. And in some cases, we do have transfer students who come from other universities but want to finish their program with us. You can transfer up to 60 credits from your previous university so that you stay here for only 2 years. But on average, most students spend here 2 years and 7 months. And this is because they would often stay each year. We have summer semesters, summer 1 and summer 2. And summer 1, you can take 6 credits. Summer 2, you can take 6 credits. And if you repeat that over 2 years, you should be able to graduate in 2 years, 7 months, which is the average time that a typical undergrad student will stay here. Next slide, please. Again, like I was saying before about the feature, I said before that our program is also based on the feature. Sometimes the feature is thrown upon us when we least expect it. And the COVID pandemic, as unfortunate as it is, it has really compelled all organizations to reevaluate how they do business. And what that means also is that we as citizens of this world, we've been affected in so many ways. And you realize that what it meant also in practice was that so many schools have to close their doors for in-person classes and instead ask students to resort to virtual classes. At Hult, as soon as the pandemic was announced, within 2 weeks, we had the technology ready to deliver what we call limitless learning. Right now, I am in a classroom in San Francisco, but it's as if that you're all with me in the room here, right? So within 2 weeks of the pandemic being announced, we were able to install technologies that make it possible for students wherever they are in the world to continue with their studies. And I think that is pretty remarkable. Next slide, please. So what limitless learning means in practice is this. If, for example, because of the pandemic, you come from a country where you cannot travel for in-person classes on campus, what you can do is from your apartment back home, or even if you're in San Francisco, but we're not allowed to come to campus, you can stay in the dorms and join the classes virtually or remotely. However, as soon as we are you allowed to travel and come to the city where we allowed to do in-person classes, like in Boston right now, you can join the same class that you've been following online without missing a class. So let me put it into context here. Let's say I am from Brazil, but because Brazilians are not allowed to travel to the US now directly, I can start my course in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, in Brazil. However, as soon as the restrictions for traveling are lifted, I can fly out from Brazil on a Friday, and Monday, I can join the same class that I was following virtually in person in the class. So you don't miss anything. But remember also, you have the option, if you want to stay online throughout the semester. What we have been able to do is where we are allowed to open, we've been doing the hybrid or the limitless learning. Some students will be in the classroom, of course, social distancing, wearing masks, and with hand sanitizers all over the room. And for others who cannot join us because they cannot travel or they don't want to come to campus now, they can join us remotely so that the learning can go on. Next slide, please. So, next, please. So some students have decided that, look, it's too risky to travel now, so I just want to stay in Colombia until next semester. It's fine. We call that the limitless learning program. You can decide that this semester or this year, I'm going to stay virtual for the whole semester or for the whole year. And that's fine. For us, what is important is that your learning goes on. We should not use the pandemic as an excuse to disrupt your education. So choosing to study at home has its benefits as well. Of course, you will miss the social aspect of coming to a different city, meeting your classmates and all that, but there are also other attendant benefits of staying at home and continuing your studies. For example, you can save a lot of money in terms of your housing and living expenses. You don't have to pay for that, right? And that can be a lot of money for some of us. And then remember, you always have the option after 2 years or 1 year or 1 semester to join us again whenever you see fit. And I think many students, especially in San Francisco, where for almost a year now, we've not been able to open the campus because of the state regulations. Most students have taken advantage of this option of going back to their homeland, home countries, and taking classes virtually, saving on tuition, saving on living expenses, and also saving on housing expenses. So it's another option that we make available to our students. And our overriding objective here is that your learning should continue irrespective of disruptions in society. Next slide, please. So I hope my presentation has given you some insights about our program, what it entails, and we're always here to help. I will now pass over to our careers development and corporate relations manager, Ms. Alli Hamilton. Over to you, Alli.
Thank you so much, Dean Mo. It's so good to see you. I've had the good fortune to work with Dean Mo on the San Francisco campus the last couple of years, but now I work on the career development team in Boston. So good to be with all of you today. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how our team supports students while they're looking for internships, while they're studying, and also how we achieve amazing employment outcomes and work with students through the whole process in terms of getting them those dream careers and helping you all start your careers. So before I do that and talk about myself and talk about the team and what that looks like, I'd love to hear from you all in the chat. If you could go to the next slide, perfect. So I'd love to hear if you know, that's great. And you can put in the chat, what type of role or what type of job are you most interested in? I'll just take a look at those responses so I can see where everybody's coming from. It's great to see all of you all over the world joining us today, all the different countries and the diversity. So there's a couple examples at the bottom of the slide, sales, are you interested in finance? And it's great if you can put the job, if you're, the industry, like you want to work in tech, you want to work in finance, you could put that as well. And if you're not sure, that's totally fine. That's also why we're here, to help you figure that out. Give you about another 20 to 30 seconds or so. Awesome. Thank you so much for volunteering and jumping on this. I see finance, marketing. Looks like Andrew's interested in real estate development. Anna put marketing. Kassan, finance and marketing, fashion, politics. Okay, wow, I won't read all of them. There's a lot of diversity, but then I see some trends as well, which is great, because you are in the best place. As you'll see in just a second, we have lots of alums who are getting amazing jobs in sales and marketing and finance. And I'll share a little bit more about that in just a second. Translation, management, awesome, international marketing, cool, great. So that gives me a little bit of an idea of where you're coming from, what your interests are, and how as a team we can best support you. So a little bit about me. We'll go to the next slide, thank you. So again, my name is Alli. This is actually my fourth, so I haven't been here as long as Dean Mo, 8 years, but half the time, but 4 years. But I absolutely love my job here. I love working at Hult. Like I said, I worked on the San Francisco campus for the last 3 years, and now I'm at the Boston campus for this academic year. I'm a certified career coach, been certified for over 5 years. I've worked with thousands of job seekers, not only at Hult, but in previous roles as well. And my background has been primarily in education, working in higher ed, but also secondary education. I've worked in the nonprofit sector and also in industry. So I've done recruiting, I've done marketing, I've done sales myself. So I can sort of speak to a lot of different roles and like to wear different hats. And I love my role because I learn so much from the students, and it keeps me nimble, learning about all the different careers that have popped up and ones that we don't even know about that we're going to see in the next 10 years as well. So it's a little bit about me. I can say before I go to the next slide that similar to me, I work on a team of over 25 global career professionals. So we have the career development team, which is student facing. So that's what I do. We support all of you and really help you figure out what is the best career path based on your skills, your strengths, your interests, your passions. But then we have a corporate relations team as well. And the corporate relations team, they go out and have direct relationships with employers. So they create relationships with big brand names like Google, Facebook, all the big tech companies, and also startups as well, where our students get more hands-on experience. And all of us, again, work really closely together. So if you are looking, I saw a question earlier about how often can we, change campuses and switch. When you do make that transition, we have such a close relationship with you because it's such a small school that we can hand you off to my colleague who works for the careers team in London, for example, and make sure that they have all the notes, they know what you're looking for, and they can just pick up that support right away, which is really an advantage to coming to Hult, which other schools don't have, maybe the multi-campus model. And again, the handoffs are really, really smooth. So let's take a snapshot and talk about the outcomes. So I'll start kind of big picture, right? Where are alums getting jobs? So we just this month, we'll be finalizing the 2020 data. So we don't have that right now, but let me give you an idea of 2019. So we have 99% of our graduates are getting full-time jobs, or they're pursuing a graduate degree within 6 months of graduation. Let me just say this again, 99%. This is an amazing statistic, right? I love my job because I work with such talented students like you all who bring your entrepreneurial skill set, you're globally minded, you're resilient, you're excited about the opportunities, and you hustle, right? And so it makes our jobs really easy because we just kind of tie the bow on top and off you go. And then Dean Mo touched on this earlier, right? But what's really great is the mobility of our students and of our graduates. So almost 60% are actually working in a country that's not their home country. Many students, if you're looking to come to the US and you're from outside the US, there are many ways you can stay here on OPT, many different authorizations that you can do. And again, if you put in the drive and the hustle, it's really, really easy to make that career happen wherever you want to go. And then on the last column on the right, what are the different employments from that 99% statistic? Over 3/4, so 74% are employed full time. I'll show you on the next slide diving a little bit deeper into the granular data of what that looks like. But you can see that 8% do return to family business. And then we have around almost 5%, they start their own companies while they're at Hult and then continue that once they graduate. Great. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive, right? So what are the top industries where Hult alums or graduates are getting jobs? So the top 3 for industries, and I think even due to the pandemic, this won't change too much because these are the industries that have seen economic growth. But technology, 18% are going into tech. No surprise, when you have a campus in San Francisco and also Boston has a really great up and coming startup scene. Also big tech has a huge presence in Cambridge. We also have financial services, right? That's the #1 industry. Again, it makes sense. We have hubs in London and Boston, big financial centers. And followed by the 3rd biggest industry would be, we have a little bit of a tie here, media, and then consumer goods. So those are all really strong industries. Those are the interests of the students and also where we see strong job growth. In terms of the function, like you all put in the chat, what you're most interested in doing, a lot of your interests and passions align with our alums. So the majority, almost half, you see 42% do go into marketing and sales roles. If you're trying to understand maybe what those job titles look like, so you can start looking, maybe doing some research now as you think about internships. The common job titles we see for our undergrads are, digital marketing specialist, digital marketing manager. We'll see sort of account executive roles. We'll see business development manager roles. The higher the title, usually we see it at maybe a smaller company. But again, lots of different companies. We work with over 700 different companies in terms of placing students. So there's lots of ways to, embark on that dream career. And let me talk to you a little bit about how we help you do that. Okay, so this is our roadmap. Whoops, I see all the years already popping in. So let me talk you through what this looks like. There's a lot of text, but I'll just start with the circles. So what this looks like is, this is our career development model. This is the methodology we use at Hult. So this is the 4-step process that we've used for a long time with our graduates, and it's worked with thousands of alumni who have come before you. The first step is really, in any career development search or process, is understanding who you are, right? Dean Mo touched on it earlier. He said, the #1 skill employers are looking for is self-awareness. I'll take that a step further. I just read, fresh off of LinkedIn, the top 2 skills for 2021 that employers are looking for are these 2. 1 is resilience, and 2 is digital literacy. I think resilience really speaks to Hult, the Hult brand, and also Hult students, because all of you are coming either from a different city, different country, to come here all on your own at 18 or however old you are. That takes a lot of resilience and courage to reinvent yourself and to be in a new market. And so that's something that you're going to learn about yourself as you are on our campus and taking those classes and figuring out what you like and maybe what you dislike. So the more you know about yourself, which is step 1, then you can go out into the market and start doing some observation, which is the O, observe. What does that mean? That means identifying a few roles you're interested in and then doing some online research or talking to industry professionals. So setting up, informational interviews, 20-minute chats with alumni or with executives and learning more about what that career path looks like. We help you do that, of course. After you do that, the next step would be accelerate. This is where we're going to help you with your resume, your cover letter, your blog, your LinkedIn presence, and make sure you're telling a story that matches the employer's needs. Lastly, drive. This would be in your last year. But you could also look at this model in a 1-year process as well if you're looking for an internship. That's when you're going to go out. You'll be landing interviews after talking to employers, getting employee referrals, landing job offers, and we'll help you with negotiating and understanding what a compensation package looks like. So down below, it says year 1, year 2, 3, and 4. Those are sort of the themes of each year, and those are the skills that we focus on. But the most important thing is looking at that arrow that says internships, right? You are able to do at least a minimum of 3 internships while at Hult. I would encourage you to capitalize and take advantage of doing all 3 internships. There's a strong correlation between the number of internships done and a strong career outcome. So that means the more you do, the more experience you can get on your resume, the better the job outcome, the higher the job title, the bigger the salary once you graduate. And the second arrow, you can see these are just a few of the ways that we support you in working you through this roadmap to get you to that dream job once you graduate. So again, we bring industry speakers on campus. We bring alumni in for roundtables to talk about their careers. We have one-on-one advising. We host really cool digital workshops. So we do Zoom webinars. They're very interactive. We put you into breakout rooms. We have you, Google each other. We have you practice interviewing. We have you doing your resume. So it's very, very hands-on, very engaging. You'll also see us come into your classrooms. So we have really close relationships with faculty as well. Great. And just wanted to touch upon, again, what does that advising look like and what does that personal support look like? I think I like Dean Moe's motto. I'm going to steal it because I feel it's my calling as well to work in education and to support you. And there's 2 things that I love to do as well. And what led me to the work here is, and the whole team, I can speak for the whole team, that we care and we share. Let me flip that. We share and we care. So similar to what Dean Moe said, right? I'm here to share my, job search best practices, share with you what's worked for alumni, what hasn't worked, and make sure that you have all the tools to set you up for success to really land, again, that career outcome that you want. And the way we do that, and then we show you that we care, is that we have very high expectations for you, but we give you a lot of support, right? So whenever you want an appointment, you can go on our online system, you can book one. Whenever you want, even if you don't have time to book an appointment, we do virtual drop-ins. So we have a Zoom link, you can hop in at really any time, and there'll be an advisor, someone on my team who's there to answer your questions. You can have 30, 45-minute sessions with us, as many as you like. We will help you again with some of the finer tools of, helping you understand what it is that you want to do, giving you some career assessments, helping you refine your resume, your cover letter, basically walking you through every step of a job search. I talked about the workshops that we host. Those could be on anything, again, from LinkedIn. We host career fairs where we bring in 50 startups on campus. We've now moved that to a virtual space, but we still have employers who want Hult talent. They come, they attend, they host internships. So again, lots of ways to tap into the network in Boston or San Francisco or London, whichever campus you're targeting. And then finally, I just want to touch on career tools. So we have really cutting edge career tools. These are game changers, in my opinion. I'll list just 2 for you. We have one called Big Interview, especially now, most companies right now are hiring remotely, right? So of course, they're not having in-person interviews, so they're doing digital virtual interviews over Zoom. We have a tool called Big Interview. It helps you, it practices. You can record yourself doing an interview. It uses AI. It'll give you feedback on your nonverbals and then your verbal content, what you're saying. So this is great. And then the other one we have is VMock. This is a tool that actually uses AI. It analyzes your resume and it gives you a score against other students, and it helps you improve your resume. So that's another one that's just amazing. And then lastly, again, we have our corporate relations team. They work really closely to make sure that you all have internships on the job board. You have access to many opportunities. You can get in front of employers and network. And so that's where we host different fairs and definitely bring companies on campus, like Dean Moe said, to make sure you have that experience and it's practical and you've been able to work for an employer and get that on your resume. And so thank you so much. It was great to see you all. And I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Morgan, who's actually on campus right now in Boston, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about student services.
Thank you, Alli. So if you want to go to the next slide. My name is McClure. I'm Student Services and Events Coordinator. This is my 3rd year at Hult. And I work doing student engagement and student development. If you want to go to the next slide to see a little bit more about what that looks like. Student services is really involved in life outside the classroom. So you have careers, you have academics, and then what do you do with your free time? Well, we have clubs and organizations, the HSA, Hult Student Association, which is our student government. We work doing cultural celebration planning, networking groups, peer support groups, and so much more. A lot of what we do is actually inspired by students coming to us with ideas. So we love to hear from you. We love to work with you. And I'm just gonna dive in, touch on a couple of these topics, and so you can see for yourself what we do. So we divide our clubs into 3 separate brackets, essentially. We have our professional clubs, we have our social clubs, and we have our sports clubs. Right here, I just wanted to highlight a couple of our professional clubs that have been doing some really awesome work right now on campus. We have our BCA, Business Current Affairs Think Tank, and our Women Plus in Business. They have been doing really awesome online events, really leaning into what we can offer with our limitless learning type of capabilities, bringing speakers in, hosting, chats and things like that. So if you're looking to expand on what you learned in the classroom, the professional clubs are really an awesome opportunity to do that. It's also a really interesting way to get involved with some of our master's students. So Hult Boston has undergraduate and graduate students, and the professional clubs are a really excellent way to network with them, get to know them, and they're here for a year, maximum year and a half. So it's a really awesome way to get some networking in, and then if they end up in an industry you're interested in, make sure you keep that connection. If you go to the next slide, we also have our sports clubs. So right here, just wanted to highlight our football, if you're American soccer team. They do intramural within Hult right now, but we do have a sports field on campus. You can see in that photo, and the soccer team has been really doing an excellent job of getting out, getting active. If you actually could look out the windows to my right, you probably could see them down there playing a game today. And they have been doing a really awesome job, even with the COVID restrictions on campus, of making sure that there are events every single weekend. The next bucket I want to talk about is our social clubs. Again, so here just highlighting a couple of them. We have our Hult in Action on the left, and on the right is In Focus, our photography club. These clubs are a little bit more fun. Hult in Action is volunteering, so they have been doing a lot of work with COVID, working in food banks, helping distributing food in the city of Boston. And then In Focus, they've been able to get out into the city, and they're a really awesome club if you're interested in photography or just want to see a little bit more of the city. So they've done some photography walks. They have an upcoming event planned where they're actually going to the zoo to do some wildlife photography. And so there's a lot of really cool ways to get involved there as well. Again, with these social clubs and with the sports clubs, much like the professional clubs, it's a mixture of undergraduates and postgraduates. So it's a really interesting way to get to know people from a lot of different countries and people who have some professional experience. You can talk to you about what life is like in the work world. If you want to go to the next slide, I just wanted to quickly put a full list of all of our clubs in the Boston campus. We get a lot of questions, oh, do you have this type of club? So I wanted to put that list out there just so you all can take a look. Wanted to highlight a couple here. Crux, which is our climbing club, is a new club on campus. That was started when a student came to us in the middle of the year and says, hey, I'm a rock climber and I really want to do this. Can you help me get a group of people together? And she just hosted her first event 2 weeks ago, I believe. And they were able to safely rent out some gym space and go climbing in a local rock gym. Again, Hult in Action. We have some students here to talk to you later. So if you have questions about that one, you can ask Alessa. We have the Hult Fashion Society. I wanted to point that one out. I saw a lot of you were interested potentially in the fashion side of business. And then, of course, we have the Hultcast, which is our brand new podcast. If you have questions about that, you can ask Ahmed here. And the Hult Debate Society as well has been doing a lot of really interesting activities with also our San Francisco campus. They've been looping people in, connecting people, and having these training sessions. So a lot of really cool things and really cool ways to get involved. If you don't want to join a club, we go to the next slide, you will see. You could also run for the Hult Student Association. So as I mentioned, this is our student government. This is an elected position, but they work really closely with student services to plan events. They did this semester a big welcome back event with a soccer tournament, some art. They had t-shirts. So it's a really interesting way to plan things and get involved with the whole student body. In addition to that, if you go to the next slide, we have our cultural celebration. So this is another big part of what we do on campus. Our Go Global events are, we understand that students come from all over the world, and sometimes you get a little homesick, you know, around that big holiday. So we want you to bring it to campus for us. These are our fall events. So we had Dia de los Muertos, we had Diwali, and of course we had some Halloween celebrations, a little pumpkin carving competition. This semester, we've already had a Lunar New Year celebration, a Carnival celebration, and coming up next Monday, or sorry, 2 Mondays, we're actually celebrating Nowruz on this campus, which is the Persian New Year. So it's a lot of really great ways to get to know your classmates and also to bring your culture to campus. The Nowruz celebration came about because a student came to us during Lunar New Year and said, hey, I'm from Iran, like, we have this celebration that's really important for me and my family, and I'm gonna miss it this year. Can we celebrate here? And we said, yes. So a lot of this is student directed. We love to work with you and love to see what excellent ideas you're going to bring to our campus. And with that, I'm gonna hand it back to Thomas, and he will talk a little bit more about the application process.
All right, thanks, Morgan, really appreciate it. And we're just going to run through the application process here to Hult. Again, my name is Thomas Wise. I'm the Assistant Director of Enrollment here at Hult International Business School. And I'm gonna walk you through briefly how to apply to the program. Now, it seems like we have a pretty healthy mix of students who are seniors who are still looking to apply, and students who are juniors or perhaps even sophomores or freshmen who are still thinking about where they're going to go in 2022 or 2023. So we'll run through it and hopefully give everyone something that they can take away of what the next step really is. So as you can see on your screens, the Hult application process begins with an online application. You can apply online at hult.edu, or you can apply through Common App or through UCAS if you would prefer. And our next upcoming deadline is April 1st. It's our final deadline for undergraduate students for the fall of 2021. So if you are a senior and this has triggered some interest in the program, I'm going to suggest you reach out and get started on that application as soon as you can. Students then submit admissions documents. Those admissions documents include things like a personal statement, which is 400 to 500 words, or even a short video if you're thinking in that creative way. We also require students to send in their high school transcripts if they are in their high school program currently. If you've graduated, we'll ask you to submit your high school diploma as well, a picture or a photocopy of it. Then, after all of your documents are submitted, we ask students to sit what's called a personal assessment interview. That interview is required, and it's one of the many ways that Hult examines applications holistically. It's required for all students in order to be evaluated by the admissions committee, and it's between a 30 and 60-minute sit-down interview over Zoom between you and a member of the enrollment team, and we talk about things like your creativity, your passions, your interests, the trials and tribulations you've overcome and the ways that you've grown and how you interact with those around you. Finally, students receive an admissions decision. Typically, the process is 4 to 5 weeks at the most, so long as all of your documents are submitted and you've done your application as well as your interview early on. After being admitted, the next step, of course, is to attend the accepted students events. We just had a fantastic accepted students event happen last weekend, and we'll have another one on April 10th. So if you're an admitted student or you're waiting for your decision now, just keep that date in mind because we'd love to have you join, get to talk directly to deans as well as our members of faculty and staff, and even sit in a mini class. It's pretty cool. After you have attended your accepted students weekend and you sit down, you've received your scholarship and award information, and you're making your final decision, the time comes to pay the confirmation deposit and determine whether or not you'll be coming to Hult next year. The deadline this year to confirm your seat at Hult is May 1st. So many of you, if you are admitted to the program now or thinking about applying to the program, that is the deadline which to do so. After that, your enrollment advisor, someone like me, is going to be working with you to prepare you to come to campus. That includes things like housing, visas, any last-minute documents that we need so you can enjoy your summer and get ready for college. Go ahead to the next slide, please. All right, so let's talk tuition as well as cost of attendance and the scholarship and awards. Currently, tuition at the US campus here in Boston is $49,100 for your first year. The tuition on the London campus is 32,500 Great British pounds. In many cases, students are looking for ways to defray the cost of attendance, and Hult offers several scholarships and awards to do so. Our merit-based scholarships are seen under the heading scholarships on the left-hand side, and those are things like academic excellence, which assesses your performance as a student in school, as well as many application and non-academically based scholarships that are available for you. Things like Global Generation. Many of our students in the chat are saying they're coming from all over the world, which is fantastic, and that really fits into the type of program that we're building here. Another one that's very popular is Future Leader, as well as Growth Mindset. Then students can also apply for awards. Awards are need-based financial aid. So we'll ask students, if you're here in the US, to submit a FAFSA or a declaration of finance in order to apply for them. And they fit a very niche number of high-level things that we're looking for in students, such as the desire to make a social change, or the desire to improve the number of women who are currently in the business world and diversify the perspectives and opinions that the business world has. And then finally, we look for students who have an entrepreneurial spirit. And if you're a student looking to start your own business and you're looking for the place to do it, Hult offers scholarships and awards for you. Okay, so we'll go on to our next slide, and that should bring us right to our Q&A. So thank you for joining us. Many of you have been throwing a lot of great questions into the Q&A. Keep in mind that these are questions for all of our staff here today, as well as for our students. We'll go through as many of them as we can before we close out our time here together. And so we'll start with a question for careers. So Alli, if you're ready, I'd be happy to ask you that as well. All right, so I can actually go ahead and answer that one. If you'd like to go to the, Sharon asks, if I'd like to go to the campus at Boston, which job opportunities do I have? Are there any? In fact, there are many. Boston is a center of finance, creation, and innovation. There are many, many opportunities, not just for internships, but for job roles here all around the city. To be honest with you, I've never been in a place as creative and as vibrant as Boston that aims to push students to create new things. And considering that there are so many bright young minds just within the center of the city, there are many opportunities where you can push yourself out there and grow into new roles, both in established firms as well as in startup organizations. All right, and this question is for me in terms of the application process. Hult does not require things like SATs or standardized tests in order to apply. If you are coming from a non-English speaking region of the world, you may be asked to take an English proficiency test, such as the TOEFL or the IELTS. If you're looking for exactly what you need to take, I would reach out to your enrollment advisor who knows what you will need directly based on your particular background. All right, and I think this is a good time to jump in with some of our students. I have a question that talks about the orientation program for first years. Can you tell me a little bit about your experiences first stepping on campus and what the orientation process looks like for students today? Go ahead.
I can take that one. So for me, for Viviana and for me, orientation was 3 years ago. But basically what you get is you get a whole week, which you might be like, wow, like really a week? Is that really necessary? But the thing is that it is, because that week really allows you to start making connections with the people that you're going to be having school with. But also it allows you to take a look at the building and be like, oh, here's where my class will be. They show you like where visas will be in case you have to like leave the country, for example, but you want your F1 signed or something like that. They show you where the professors are usually sitting at for office hours. They show you if you have any problems regarding IT. We have like the IT guru, which is Driven here. He saves us constantly. I've been saved by him plenty of times. So they show you all of that, and that week they also, as Morgan said, student services puts a lot of effort on what happens in that week. So it's not really all like technical and academic. You have events that are happening. I remember, I believe for Ahmed, when his generation came this year, they were like social distancing picnics happening last semester, for example, just because the school, yes, it's a school, it's an institution and all of that, but we wanted to actually have fun and not just be like, I have to go for orientation week. So it's a very like a mix of everything. You have our deans usually talk, we had like talk with Dean Monica, for example. We had a run through of the club so students can get an idea on what do they want to join. And a lot of the times students have either the ambassadors or student leaders or the bodies or the HSA, which is Hult Student Association. They have them here for orientation week. So that way, like any student can go and ask one of like the older students here, like, hey, is this club good? Or like, does it so like, are we gonna do something or not? Like, should I take classes with this professor or not? So it's very accessible. I think, I don't know if like B or Ahmed have anything to add on to this. But...
Yeah, I can definitely add on to that. I feel like the beauty about the orientation here at Hult is that you're not treated like a number. Orientation actually provides you with the tools that you will need to, for example, meet the professors, meet the deans. You get, for example, to meet the club leaders, the global ambassadors. I remember they took us to go around Boston and took us to some areas that are really interesting to see. So when you come here, you're not a number. You're a person with a name, with values, with interests, and they work with you depending on your interests. And that's the beauty of it, because a lot of people, when they go to college, they're kind of like scared, oh, class has over 500 people and, you know, you start to lose your mind. But then when you're here, you start to realize that it's not the case. Classes are small. You have one-on-one connections with professors, with deans, with people you would like to meet. So orientation is very crucial here because you actually get to have personal relationships with those people. So I feel like orientation has been a wonderful thing, and it's definitely like a must.
I think orientation is okay, that's where I met everyone and all of my close friends until this day. And I mean, me and Alessa have been working as ambassadors, and we are the ones that are in charge of orientation and helping the events come through. And honestly, that is how I get to know people as well. No, it's just a very lightweight, very happy time where you get to know people and just adjust yourself in the environment.
Thanks, much appreciated for all three of you. And I have another follow-up question to that, a really, really fantastic one from one of our anonymous attendees. Why did you choose Hult compared to the other universities that you applied to?
So,
Who wants to start?
here you go. So I chose Hult because it was very different from what I knew. So in my country, so I'm from the Dominican Republic, and we have this idea that studying in America is like a dream. So from what we see in the media is usually those traditional big state universities, and I always wanted to be in one. So I applied to 11 schools, but the only one that stood out to me was Hult because it was a little bit different. And I chose it because it aligned with my personal values, even though I really wanted to experience that American traditional college life. I believe that Hult was the one for me, and I needed to take that opportunity for myself and my future.
I feel like I have a similar point of view as well. When I wanted to apply to colleges, I was applying to universities who aligned with my views and aligned with my goals. And I feel like something that Hult offers is that professors are not only professors, they have experience within the field. So the professor who's teaching you in management, marketing, entrepreneurship, they've all started companies, they're all businessmen, women, of course. They just have literally all the necessary tools to help you with that process. And having that one-on-one connection with CEOs and CFOs and just entrepreneurs, it's such a valuable tool that can definitely help you achieve what you want to achieve. Because in a lot of other universities, a professor is a professor. He doesn't necessarily have the background. Maybe he doesn't have a business, but here at Hult, they've all are super involved in business, and that is definitely one of the main aspects that led me to continue on and be here at Hult.
For me, I guess it's basically the same as both B and Ahmed. I would say the only thing for me is a special kind of like sentimental touch. When I first came for the Acceptance Students Weekend in April of 2018, I was a senior in high school, and of course I had an enrollment advisor. And when I first stepped into the building, I saw him and I was like, oh my God, I'm so shy. I'm not like, they're gonna treat me like I'm another number, like student ID, blah, 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 blah. And then I suddenly see this guy sprint, and I still remember his name, Stephen Maxon. He's a great guy. He was the one that contacted me. And he was like, Alessandra, hello, how are you? And like, he like jumped and he was like, how are you? How's it going? How was the trip? And then he said hello to my parents. And I was like, wow, this is actually really weird, like it's not really normal. I did high school in the US, and I've been in the US for a long time now, so I was really used to the big schools that B was talking about. I was like, okay, you go, you do a tour, but you have like a student ID number, and they're like, yeah, we'll do a follow-up question with that, but they didn't really answer anything. And I feel like every single question my parents and I had, and pretty much anybody that was at Acceptance Students Weekend, all of their questions got answered. And I guess I was like, well, yes, I love this school. We're gonna take that leap of faith, like we're gonna see if it really is like that. I was really surprised when I came in August. I met Dean Mo. I think I met him on like a Monday, and then on a Wednesday, he was like, Alessandra, how are you? And I was like, wait, so it really is like that? Like, this is really how we roll here? So I feel like for me, it was like I'm entering the professional life, like Ahmed said, with professors that have been CEOs, that they have been CFOs, that they have so many connections. But I feel like I do not need to act like the grown up. I do not need to act like, oh, like I'm so professional. Like, I know that I can build in personal connections. And that's honestly something that Hult really does a good job at offering. Believe me, you come here next semester, you're gonna see us, and right now we cannot really see your faces, but if you're like, oh, I saw you at a webinar, there's a really high chance that we're gonna be like, oh my God, how was it? Like, did you like it? Like, can we do something better? Like we're gonna be like that, and it's really a unique experience.
I feel like one word to really describe the environment at Hult is cool.
Yeah.
Everyone is like, the environment
This
is
pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
That's great to hear. And I actually, to speak on a similar thing for what our students have told us today, especially Alessandra has talked about her relationship with her enrollment advisor. And I've seen many place names in our chat today that are actually my areas that I work with, which is awesome. And so if you wind up being an applicant to Hult, you will likely talk directly to me for the majority of your application. And so the person that you're seeing is oftentimes the person that is directly involved in your application itself. And just to reiterate the fact that you are substantially more than just a number on campus. Another question for students, you guys have talked a little bit about this so far, but I'm curious to hear about your experiences with mentorship from professors or from staff members.
Yeah. So I'm a senior, so this is actually my last semester, guys. I've had a lot of mentorship, and every single mentorship I've had, I've been grateful for. I think my first mentorship was actually with Dean Mo in the summer of 2019. I was taking his Principles of Marketing class, and he was one of the first professors that brought an outside company to the class and gave us this basically kind of like role of a consultant for the company. And it was amazing working with them, because then we had that experience with the company, but we also had Dean Mo as a mentor, be like, okay, have you seen have you looked at your target segmentation? How can you exploit that? For example, then we have professors such as Dr. Robert Neer. He has written so many books, for example. So if you are interested in anything related to the book industry, he can be extremely of help. I've seen him help other students that have some kind of like book interest. It's really diverse. I've had professors that worked at the Wall Street Journal, such as Bruce McKinnon, and it's amazing getting to talk to them. I know it sounds really nerdy, but like I feel like B and Ahmed can follow up on that. It's really cool that your professor has those connections, and then sometimes you're analyzing a case study, which you guys will have, by the way. There's a lot of case studies in class. B and I are taking a change management class, and we have a case study for every class. But it's so interesting because a lot of the times, even the professor is like, oh, I work here, or oh, I did an internship, or oh, I have this connection from the company. You're like, wow, this is really cool. Like my professor is actually being like, here's my LinkedIn connections, go for it. Like say that you know me. So I think it's pretty cool, that experience of mentorship that you have here.
I think mentorship comes from accessibility. And since we're all so close to each other, we have that mentorship and we have the opportunities to be mentored by amazing professors. And I definitely second what Alyssa said.
I agree as well. I don't have anything to add. We literally have so many resources here, and it's not only through professors, it's also through faculty and even your peers. Your peers are connections.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel that that mentorship is something that we hear about from students often at home. And so thank you, Menashe, for asking that question, and thank you guys for responding so detailed. I think this is actually a great question considering that so many of our students come from all over the world. Lucas in Brazil asks, can international students show or represent their culture on campus, and how do they do so?
Of course you can. Oh my God. Morgan just celebrated that. I think
like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, like 2 weeks or a month ago. Carnival, right?
It was Carnival, and it was Lunar New Year, and I was part of the organizing. We did some marketing. I did some marketing for the event, and yeah, I think it was great because I got to celebrate Chinese New Year, but also Korean New Year and Indonesian, and all different cultures that celebrate the same event but differently. And then there has been multiple cultural fairs in the past where even Dominican Republic was celebrated. And then a lot of the African Society Club celebrates their own festivities. The Diwali happens every year. Mardi Gras. There's Brazilian carnivals. There's even sometimes other.
Dia de los Muertos.
Dia de los Muertos. O sea, oh my God. There's like different. I don't know. It's just every culture celebrates it differently. The same event, but it's still. You can still bring yourself into the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like clubs do a perfect job just to, highlight those cultures. But on a personal level, we have a kitchen. And what do people love to do? They love to eat. So I've actually been doing like some of that. For example, I'd go to the kitchen. There are currently, or at least that I know of, no Moroccans currently here at Boston. But so I make Moroccan food and I invite my friends and they have some, they try my food and I try some of theirs. And it's a great way it starts great, conversations when you eat a Moroccan food. Oh, how do you make it? And what is the history behind that dish? It creates some really nice conversations. So since we actually have a kitchen at Hult House, the possibilities to even show and highlight your culture is even more likely because you can literally make food and just share it and have a wonderful conversation about it.
Well, first, oi Lucas to the vein. So I think that's really good for me. I think the best way to explain this is the only reason why I speak Portuguese is because for the past 3 years, one of my friends here has been teaching me. She is from Manaus in Brazil. So it has been an amazing opportunity to get to look at the actual culture, and I think I'm addicted to Guaraná now. I do not think so. I'm sure I'm addicted to Guaraná. And every time that I'm down, she's like, do you want some brigadeiro? And that doesn't only happen with friends from Brazil. That really happens with your friends here. Like the thing is that there is a really high chance that every single one of your friends is from a different country. And I think we're a great example. Viviana is from the Dominican Republic. Ahmed is from Morocco and I'm from Mexico. We really don't have that much in common. When you first look at us, we're like, oh, okay, but then we have a great relationship. I've learned so much from both of them, and that's pretty much what happens at Hult. Here they really enhance that internationality. And as Morgan mentioned before, we might not be aware of all the celebrations that happen in the world, but for example, for me in Mexico, Dia de los Muertos is a huge thing. We brought it up to student services. And I don't know if you guys saw it on the slideshow, but there was a whole altar that we did because that's like a huge tradition in Mexico. And we had, well, we couldn't have the actual food this year because COVID. But for example, last year that we did it, we had food and we were sharing pan de muerto with everybody. For example, when we're making the hot chocolates. So if you're worried, tiny bit worried about like keeping your culture within you, really don't be. We really accept it. We're very invested into it, and there's a really high chance we're gonna love it completely.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you for all sharing again, of course. I'm going to merge two questions from anonymous students. And one is looking for you to describe a day in your life at Hult. And then secondly, to kind of add on to that, specifically, what is life like in Boston? Is it expensive? Do you go to eat, like what kind of foods are around campus that you go to? And are you able to get around easily and get to where you want to go?
Boston is a wonderful city. Like, actually, I think I've been to a couple of cities in the US, but Boston for me, Boston is it's a lost European city. It really is. It's a lost European city. You have Little Italy. You have the architecture is so old, reminding you of like the UK, like the old architecture. The history here is so huge. You can visit some historic places that remind you of the past and how the United States started. Bunker Hill Monument, bunch of like museums all around, the Museum of Science. I feel like it's super historical and scientific, and also it's surrounded by huge and amazing universities. Aside from that, there's a huge river as well, literally 5 minutes from here. It'll take me forever to describe Boston because I love it so much. But it really is an amazing city with a lot of opportunities, very diverse, restaurants from everywhere. I actually go to a Moroccan pastry not very far from here. So when I miss my Moroccan food, I just go there, get food that I need to get, and then just come back here. And one of the most important things for me is that Boston is super accessible as well, because we've got trains, buses. It's all interconnected in a way where if you need to go somewhere, you don't have to take an Uber or need a car. Literally, go to a station. It's 10 minutes from here, and you can go to anywhere.
Or you
in
can
Boston.
walk.
Or
you
walk.
can walk
Yeah.
or bike. I actually learned how to bike here because they have the
Blue lights.
Okay, you guys are not seeing it, but Morgan is really laughing at this. I learned how to use the bike when I was little, but then I forgot. You know how everyone's like, oh, it's so easy, like riding a bike, psych. It wasn't really that easy for me, but I actually learned how to ride a bike here again because they have I think it's called like Blue Bikes, something like that. It's a company here in Boston that you can legit rent a bike for like 2 hours and it costs you like $5, and you can be all around the city because they have like stations all over the city. So even if you start in point A and you're gonna finish in point B, like it doesn't matter because there's gonna be somewhere nearby to put it. Don't do that when it's cold. I did it. It was not a great idea. But that was freshman year, Alyssa. So like I was a bit lost in the moment, but it's all good now. Just take my advice and don't do it anymore.
I agree so much. You can get anywhere in Boston under 30 minutes. If you want to walk, it's 30 minutes to get there. But if it's a little bit too far, just take the train and it's still 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're asking a day in life, we have to distinguish COVID and pre-COVID. But because limitless learning has made it easy for me to actually still go to class in person, I don't feel that different from before. Just more precaution, some curfews, and yeah, some social
COVID testing.
COVID
COVID
testing.
testing every week, guys. And if you miss it, you're gonna get an email and they're gonna make you go get your COVID.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep you safe.
Yeah.
We love it.
No.
Don't worry, there's no argument about it. That keeps us going.
Oh my God, it saved me so many arguments with my parents. I could literally tell them, no, I get my COVID test each week. Don't worry about it, because they're Asian, so they're worried.
Yeah, thank you guys for also jumping in a little bit to cover the what another student asked earlier today as we were going through the sessions about COVID testing and importantly, COVID safety on campus. So I'm going to give you a brief, like 1 minute break while I answer a application question. And Maria asks, what are we looking for in students as they go through the process? So Maria, what we look for in our undergraduate students is pretty varied. We recognize the individual differences and the humanity of every student on campus. I mean, the 3 students who are here with us today are very different people with very experiences themselves that all led them to Hult. Our students come from all over the world, and really we look for students who match the 3 pillars that Dean Mo mentioned at the beginning, which are students who are interested in the world, who are interested in an active and socially sustainable future, and we look for students who know themselves, students who are comfortable with their strengths and weaknesses, who are looking for a place to develop and grow those. That's in fact the reason why we require the personal assessment interview, and it's one of the areas where many students actually stand out because they're able to, for the first time in a lot of their applications, talk about themselves and the things that they're interested in and the places they want to go. All right, so for 2 questions, I'm going to merge these again for both Andrew and Menashe together. Have you been to other campuses, first off, including over the summer? And how often do you get back home in a normal non-COVID year?
So for me, my year to rotate, since I think somebody explained it earlier, you can graduate in 3 years. For me, that was my plan. I did not want to rotate on my first year just because I was like, no, I want to settle and everything. My second year was my rotation year, but COVID happened. However, I've heard amazing things about people that rotated. Actually, Viviana went to Shanghai, so I'm gonna let her talk more about that. But for the other question that you were asking, I think that just Hult in general, it's like it's really accessible, like in a way that like I wasn't able to rotate, but I was able to get that experience. Also like internships are really important, guys. So I think Alli was the one talking about careers. Have that in mind. But V, would you want to talk about Shanghai and how was it?
Shanghai was amazing. You guys have to do it. But yeah, Shanghai was one of the reasons why I did come to Hult, because it was a gateway for me to be able to connect with my culture even better. And it absolutely did. I think I had like a misconception of what China was before I went to Shanghai. And once I got there, I realized that this is a progressed, well, it's getting to more progressed city. And I got to meet students from London and students from San Francisco, as well as professors from there. So I didn't take any classes with Boston professors. I took them with Turner from San Francisco, and Diego from London, which was amazing. And then I made long-lasting friends from there as well. So I actually have friends from London, I have friends from San Francisco. But talking about the Shanghai experience, it was brief, but it was enough for me to be able to enjoy the city, as well as getting to know myself with my family, and also the students in Hult. And then I forgot the other question. I was gonna.
So summer back home. Your experiences.
Do I go back home? Actually, going to Shanghai was like going back home for me. It was so nice. But I go back home like once a year to Dominican Republic.
All right. So that is the last question that we have time for today. It's now 2:30. I'd like to take a quick moment to thank all of our panelists and presenters, as well as our phenomenal students. Thank you guys for showing up today and coming for and answering the vast majority of our questions. You kill it in everything you do. I also want to shout out specifically the students and the parents and the families that asked so many excellent questions today. I apologize if we were not able to get to your question before the end. However, I highly encourage you to reach out to your enrollment advisor, as people like me are able to answer those questions directly and put you in touch with students so that you can connect with them one-on-one. Thank you again for joining us today. I hope that you learned a lot, and we look forward to seeing your applications and your questions very soon. Bye.